Hey everyone, what is going on? My name is Archalife, and in today's video we're going to be talking more extensively about the Payday 2 Switch port and also Joy, the character who came as a timed exclusive with the Switch version. I've gone through a bunch of reviews, and except for the odd one or two that just didn't like Payday 2 in general, I have gone for common themes, repetitive bits of information here and there that most of the articles seem to have in common. I've compiled them all together, and on top of that I'm going to be giving my thoughts on what these actual reviews are saying, give my thoughts on the Switch port in general, and also give my thoughts on Joy as a character. First off, we're going to start by talking about Joy because it's a little less to talk about there than the actual Switch version, so I can get that done and then move more onto the actual port itself because I feel like there's more to talk about there and more to get your opinions on. But first off with Joy, let's talk about her LED mask, which is probably the main feature of her character if we're being completely honest. Now in Joy's character trailer we saw that her mask could actually pulsate between the masks of other Payday gang members. More specifically in the trailer we saw Dallas, Chains, Houston, Wolf, and Clover. It's now been found that actually Houston's mask doesn't flash through in the normal gameplay of the actual heist, but on top of that, Hoxton and Bonnie's masks have been added to that pulsating pattern. So now the pattern runs as Dallas, Chains, Hoxton, Wolf, Clover, and Bonnie. Don't know whether it's exactly in that order, but it's pretty much roughly in that region. It's quite an interesting feature, but I kind of feel like for an actual character's mask, it's a bit of a weird one. I feel like that would have been better as like an Infamous mask or just a normal like, you know, free community mask that you could wear and you could flick through a few of your favourite characters. The fact that it's actually owned by an actual new heister just seems a little bit strange. I don't know if everyone else agrees with me on that front, because there's actually a setting on the mask where it just says Joy on the front, which looks really good, and I like the fact that it's an LED mask. I think she should just have that, and maybe if they did like a Mega Joy mask like the PC players see that we don't see any of on console, but that's by the by, they could do like a Mega mask or like a bonus version, like the Donald Trump mask perhaps, where they had the normal face and then the burning eyes. They could have Joy where it just said Joy on the front of the mask, and also another version where it flicked through all the different mask versions. That's just my opinion. I just feel like that would work better, but either way, it's a really nice feature, and I do like the mask, and I could wear it on other characters, so I suppose it applies to other heisters that more than other masks would, because you wouldn't normally wear like Dallas's mask on Sydney's character, for instance, so, you know, it works a bit better in that way. But the only downside with it is that you can't customize the mask on top of that, which is really bad because there are certain black areas that don't light up for any of the mask pulsations. So you would think that in those black areas you could put a material, a pattern, a colour, anything at all really, because not all masks let you put patterns all over the entirety of the mask. It only applies to certain areas, so there's no reason why really they couldn't have done that with Joy's mask. Bit disappointing. They might introduce it later and just add it as like an update or a patch, but at the minute it's not available, and I think that's a little bit disappointing. But her character herself is absolutely fine. As the second Japanese heister in the Payday gang, there's nothing wrong with her at all. Her voice lines sound fine. I haven't really listened to them too extensively, but you know, there are other heisters where I'm not as keen on the voice lines. We won't go into details there because you could probably guess what I'm talking about. But honestly, she seems fine. But the thing that I want to talk about mostly with Joy is the perk deck that came with her. And honestly, without beating around the bush, what an absolute disappointment it is to me. And it might not be a disappointment to other people because it's pretty much an ECM support type build perk deck. So there might be people who like ECM support builds and would like to use this perk deck. But for me, thinking about all the options they could have gone through for a perk deck related to a hacker, this just seems like a really cheap and not really very powerful or really notable perk deck. I don't really like it very much. We'll talk through all the cards and I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards. So first off, card number 1 is called Code Glitch, which unlocks and equips the Pocket ECM device. Activating the Pocket ECM device before the alarm is raised will trigger the jamming effect, disabling all electronics and pages for a 6-second duration. Activating the Pocket ECM device after the alarm is raised, however, will trigger the feedback effect, granting a chance to stun enemies on the map every second for a 6-second duration. The Pocket ECM device has 2 charges with a 100-second cooldown timer, but each kill you perform will shorten the cooldown time by 6 seconds. Card 3 is called OPSEC, which gives you a 20% passive health increase. Card 5 is called Bit Decay, which says killing an enemy while the feedback effect is active will regenerate 20 health. Card 7 is called Kludge, I think that's how you pronounce it, not quite sure. Killing at least one enemy while the feedback or jamming effect is active will grant 20 dodge, which lasts 30 seconds. And card number 9 is Botnet. Crew members killing enemies while the feedback effect is active will regenerate 10 health. So the thing to note here is that the base effects of the Pocket ECM device do not change the higher that you go up the perk deck. It's just you get extra bonuses from them as you go further up, and I don't really like it. It just seems like a bit of a cheap knockoff ECM jammer, which serves as a decent excuse if you don't want to bring ECM jammers but want to go for an ECM support build. But as I've said, I'm not a big fan of that. What I would have liked is some kind of hacking skills where perhaps in stealth camera loop duration is increased. Instead of 20 seconds, it's say 30 or hell even 40 if you want to be really ambitious. Actually hacking computers is something that we do a lot in Payday. Not as much as drilling things, granted I'll give you that, but they last sometimes as long as thermal jaws. You can have 6-minute hacks, and there is no physical way to delay or to reduce, the duration of that hack. So to have a perk like that where, you know, lower down in the perk deck you could say the hacking time is reduced by 15%, like in the skills for drills, and then when you ace it or you go further up the perk deck in this regard, it becomes 30%. They could change the value if they wanted. It didn't have to be 30, but it could follow the same pattern as drills that way. But there's just so many things, and other like tech-related things, like for instance when you look through cameras, guards you mark through cameras will be marked for a longer duration, things like that, or special enemies will be marked for a longer duration. There are plenty of opportunities there for hacking type things or electronic and computer-based perks that characters don't already have that would work really well with this perk deck, and it just feels like such a waste. I know it sounds so kind of negative and really really having a proper go at the perk deck, but again, as someone who doesn't use ECM support builds, this is an extreme disappointment. It will encourage me to at least give ECM support builds a go once this comes out, because it's one thing I've never tried. But there's a reason I haven't ever tried it. But personally, when I make a build, my main goal is to have a build that works both on your own and with other team members. If you have an ECM support build, you're not going to be able to use that on your own. Not really, anyway. Because that way you've got no doctor bags to access unless you put them in through assets or pre-planning. No ammo bags, nothing like that. So it just feels like you're putting yourself in a bit more danger than you need to be, especially if you want to do it on something like 1 down or something. And those hacking perks, while you might not use them on 1 down, you might favour dodge perk decks, they're still an option to consider for maybe one person in a team of 4. I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's just the way I think, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit there, but honestly, it's just, I'm not impressed. But anyway, putting that all aside, we're going to now move on to the Nintendo Switch port for Payday 2, talk a bit more about that in specific, and give my thoughts on the good and the bad to do with the game. Now, there were a couple of things that were noted that were a little bit strange to start off with. First off, textures. I mean, it isn't the most important thing on a game that you're going to be having on the go, especially when the screen isn't huge, but on TV mode, maybe this will matter a little bit more, but the textures are a bit weird. They're a bit dodgy, kind of be a bit glitchy, and also a bit dark. On some heists, for instance, and it was especially noticed on one review page that when things are dark on Nintendo Switch, like it's a dark heist, you really can't see where you're going. I don't know whether that's just something that you experience also on console and PC, and people reviewing it haven't really played as much Payday 2, but it's worth noting that perhaps on Switch things might be a bit darker. I'm honestly not too sure about that. It's very technical and I don't know the specs for it. In terms of resolution and FPS, it manages to keep up to pretty much what Overkill said. It's steady 720p on the go mode, and it's standard 1080p on TV mode. Doesn't really seem to change from that. It does sometimes struggle to keep 30 FPS though, and they did promise a steady 30 FPS, to quote Almir when he did the Overkill update. They said steady 30 frames per second, and apparently it doesn't quite manage to keep up to that 100% of the time. So that isn't great, especially considering it's locked at 30 and not 60, which is the same on console. But the strange thing is that the Switch version is missing the H2H3 character pack, which is fine. Console don't have that either at the minute. But it's missing Scarface. The Scarface DLCs aren't on the Switch version, which is so strange considering that we've had them on console since November 2017. So I don't really know what their logic was there, why Scarface on its own couldn't make it over, but I just thought that was worth noting because it's very strange that hasn't been ported over, and especially considering all the stat buffs and things like that, you know, that they released on console at the same time as the Switch version came out. But it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things, it's a bit strange. But there's a few issues now that I want to talk about. 2 mainly in focus, but we're going to, take them one by one. First off, we're going to talk about multiplayer as a concept in general for Payday 2. Now, most of you will agree with me that Payday 2 works best with a team of 4 human players. With AI, especially on PC, there are now ways that you can benefit from playing on your own, or just with AI players in general. You can get, passive stat boosts like faster interaction speed, all that good stuff if you play with AI on its own. Console, we don't have that. But either way, working with human players, I think we can all agree, is better than AI, just for the feel and the point of the game, because it's all supposed to be about a 4-player co-op action FPS. That's their tagline. You're supposed to do it with 3 other people. But multiplayer on the Switch isn't really possible all the time when you think about it, because the focus that Overkill have put on it is playing with 4 people, but focusing on 3 friends. So you all have a Switch and you're all in the same room and you're playing Payday 2 together. That's all fine and dandy, but if there's no matchmaking and you can't play it on the go, you're stuck a lot of the time on the Switch version playing on your own, which kind of defeats the objective of taking Payday 2 on the go and being able to play it away from home when you're not able to access a games console or a PC. So the main feature of Payday 2, playing with other people, is just kind of completely gone. It's not like a mobile phone where you can turn on your data and start playing online. That just isn't how it works. You don't have an internet connection while you're on the go. So what really do you do? And honestly, there's not really a solution there because you're kind of screwed. And the only times you can have a solid connection are when you're perhaps in a Wi-Fi hotspot, an area that serves you free Wi-Fi, Or if you're at home where you've got a solid, stable internet connection, hopefully most of you will have that. Otherwise, how you'll be watching this video for starters, but either way. So you've got that. That's a pretty big issue, to be honest. But the real kick in the gut here is that they still don't have the Henchman AI update. And in this one instance, I would have been absolutely fine if the Switch version got it before Xbox One and PS4. As long as we knew it was coming, I wouldn't have minded. And if we got it first on Switch, I wouldn't have cared. Because in this instance, they need that more than we do. A lot of us are playing with human players on console versions and not so much on their own unless we choose to do so. Even if there's not as many people playing it on console as there is on PC, there's still plenty of matchmaking in service that you can use. Not to mention you guys can all play with me if you're, not playing with other people, and I do sub-events. That's all fine and dandy. But on the Switch, you don't have the multiplayer options, so you want the AI to be the best they can be. But as I said, they don't have the Henchman AI update. They don't have all the functionality that Henchman can have. And what I'd like to do very briefly is just refer to the review for Payday 2 on the Switch from GameSpot. They talked a little bit about AI, and I just want to quote their website just for a little bit to talk about. While not outright obstacles, the AI can be utterly useless. These accomplices never engage in mission tasks. They won't help you pick up loot or unlock doors, nor they help you restart the drill you're breaking into the vault when it inevitably fails. They take a couple of seconds to react to enemy fire, and also never place down any support equipment. Occasionally, they'll even fail to revive you, instead standing over you until the counter hits 0 and you're put into custody, effectively a respawn counter. And unless you've taken a hostage that can be used to negotiate your release, you'll fail the mission and get nothing. It can be downright disheartening at the best of times. The worst part about this is some of the exact problems have been fixed via patches for other versions of the game. So I'm really getting the feel from that part of the article that the AI are completely unreliable. You can't even throw bags on them in the way you can on PC and console. Granted, it's not the best feature, but it doesn't sound like that's available at all on the Switch. I've not seen gameplay to prove otherwise. If I am wrong there, please feel free to correct me, and I apologise if I am incorrect there. But it feels a little bit to me like the Switch players being cheated. Not only are they unable to play online with people while on the go, which is the whole purpose of the Payday 2 Switch port, but on top of that, the AI aren't even at the top of their game. So it's almost like thinking, well, why not just play on my own without Team AI and just die all the time? It's not really a great idea, and I'm not too happy about the way that's gone down. Now, before I talk about the other downside of the Switch version, I want to tell you guys a very quick story. So it was 2015, I just bought my Xbox One, and I bought with it Payday 2 Crime Wave Edition and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I liked Advanced Warfare, let's not go there, don't judge me. But Payday 2 on the Xbox One was a big revolutionary thing for me, and I hadn't played it extensively on the Xbox 360, mainly because there just wasn't much to offer there, because there wasn't much in the way of DLC. So I was very excited to get in and play the game. And I was playing it, I've been playing it for maybe about a week or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. And I had a few people join my game, and I started talking to, I created a party and started talking to the 3 people who joined my heist, which was Watch Dogs. And I got talking to a few of them, and then a couple of them left the party, and then there was one guy left who I started talking to and I spoke to for the rest of the day. 3 years on, I'm now super close with that guy and his group of friends, and it's because of them that I've been able to do amazing videos like Payday 2 and GTA 5, the Hoxton Breakout, and Music Mashups 15 up to 21, and a bunch of other stuff. They have been there, and they have been my closest mates on Xbox for nearly 3 years because of the voice chat I could do through playing Payday 2. Now let's move over to the Switch port, which you cannot have any form of voice communication with. It's not even an option. There's no way you can talk to people, and even with the Splatoon 2 port for the Nintendo Switch, apparently there's a little kind of amateurish like bug fix or, kind of self-made, homemade kind of patch for it. I don't even know how to explain it, but basically it's using the phone app on the Switch. Didn't even know it had that, but that's by the by. You can use the phone app and you can talk to people whilst playing Splatoon 2 using that. But that doesn't even work on Payday 2, and even if it did, it's not exactly a very good workaround to being able to talk to 3 other people while you're heisting. So what we're basically saying is here, you can't communicate with anyone you're playing with if you are under a solid internet connection, which obviously, as we've already said, you may not be half the time on the Switch, you may be on the go, not being able to talk to people anyway. So both of these problems go hand in hand, but the real issue here is that it's essential for day-to-day heisting to be able to talk to your team, but as my story's proven, you could even make new friends by playing it online with other people. And if you aren't able to do that, you're missing out on that, and that's just a real stab to the stomach. It's not fun, and it really just doesn't feel like Payday 2 is serving much purpose on the Nintendo Switch. So while it seems like they'll do easy stuff like weapon buffs and stat changes like with the LMG stats being changed, which is again why I think they came out on Xbox One and PS4 without any new heists. They did it because they'd done it on the Switch and just thought, oh, we better do it on consoles as well. That just further proves my point and proves that I was right. Not being a show off, I just kind of knew that was how they'd done it. But it just kind of shows that they won't put the time in to even get the game up to date with 8th generation consoles, the Xbox One, the PS4, and even PC. Even though PC's ahead of consoles, we've still got more than the Switch. The Switch is missing Scarface. The Switch doesn't have all the multiplayer functionality that you can have on any other console whilst you're on the go, which is the point of the Switch port. And on top of that, there's no way to talk to people even if you do have an internet connection. And to be honest, you would think after the failed sales of Raid World War II, they would do everything in their power to make sure this port is the best thing it can be. But it seems to me like they just shoved it out the door, put some DLC on it and gone, there you go, now you can play Payday 2 on the go. But oh wait, you can't really play it to its full potential with the main purpose of the port, which is to play it on the go. I would rather play the Xbox 360 version, to be completely honest. At least I can talk to people on there, so I don't know. I feel like I'm getting really kind of angry about it, but it hurts my head so much to think that there are so many things on here that the Switch players don't have. And there could be a community of Switch players that want to start growing and want to start talking to each other, like I've started to do with you guys on console now. The community that we're growing is really good, but that isn't obviously the focus of this video. It's just that there will be Switch players who want to be able to get in touch with each other, play with each other, and they won't have that opportunity and won't even be able to talk to each other. And it just feels so unfair. Now, you see, the best way to take this going forward would have been to have cross-play save files, not necessarily playing with the people on other platforms, but being able to transfer your saves from PC, Xbox One, PS4, have them linked to the Switch, and being able to carry on with those characters whilst you're on the go. So it's just like, sometimes if you're on console, you don't want to play with other people. Occasionally, like I do sometimes, you go on Crown It offline, try and do a solo stealth, that kind of thing. That could be perfect for the Switch. I could connect my Infamy 2500 character to the Switch, and while I'm in the car or on an aeroplane, not that I've been in one in like nearly a decade, but I could be anywhere on the go. I could sit there and go, oh, just solo stealth the diamond or something while I'm on the go. Not play the full game, but just, you know, have something to pass the time. But obviously we know crossplay is never going to happen, but that would be the best way to take this port, because it just seems like the times where you'd be able to play it to its full potential, which is when you've got a solid internet connection at home, it just kind of feels like, well, you're at home and you've got internet. Just play Payday 2 on a PC or play it on a games console. Play it on any games console. There's 4 game consoles with the version on, even if it's not much DLC on the last gen. It feels to me like it was very much put out the door to make some money, buy it some time, and then get people over for Payday 3 and Overkill's The Walking Dead. Obviously, this wasn't a port that was designed because Raid World War II failed, because it was confirmed way before Raid World War II was even released. But it just feels like it was so pointless. And I honestly don't really know what else to say. So, honestly, they're just stretching the team a lot further than it should be, and honestly, the focus should just be on supporting Payday 2 until 2019. They've already got 3 platforms that they're trying to focus DLC and support for, right up for the next 2 years, just under. And on top of that, they've got Payday 3 coming out a lot sooner, and they're already trying to focus a lot of their team on that. They're just spreading themselves too thinly. I honestly do believe that, not to mention Overkill's The Walking Dead as well. It's just, I don't know. I fully understand how cynical I've come across in this video and how negative I have towards Overkill. You guys know I don't tend to be disrespectful to Payday 2 at all. I will defend the game until my dying breath because I love Payday 2 to bits. One of my favourite games that I've ever played. But when there is something like this where I want to talk about it and I do have a negative opinion, I will just put it across, because I don't want to be that kind of person who just kind of beats around the bush and goes, it's not great this, but it's still worth buying the game. Honestly, if you have Payday 2 on the Switch and you're expecting to play the full game, don't buy it. Really, just don't buy it. It's not worth it. I would buy it now knowing what I'm getting, and I think you guys would understand now that if you know what you're getting, you could decide whether or not you're going to buy it yourself. Personally, I'd be happy with having a Switch version where I could just take it on the go and, you know, just play a few offline heists. I wouldn't play it, you know, publicly because I wouldn't be able to. But I would not buy a Nintendo Switch for 200, 300 quid, however much it costs, and then buy Payday 2 just to be disappointed. So I hope for those of you considering the Switch port, I've helped your decision. If you aren't going to buy the game, that is sad, and unfortunately I apologise that you have made that decision. But I have to be honest, I've got to tell you guys what is good and what isn't about the Switch version. So that ends my cynical rant update discussion video. Again, I am very sorry if I did come across too cynical here, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up, but the real important thing here is I want to be talking to you guys in the comments below about everything I've been talking about. What do you think about the fact that the Switch version is missing DLC? Do you think it's a bad thing that multiplayer functionality isn't available on the go? Do you think that should have been the point of Payday 2 on the Switch? What do you think about voice communication? Do you not think that should be a thing that's been integrated into the game? Should they have focused on doing that? And there's plenty of other things to talk about as well. Do you think that Switch will get loads of support and it will impact PC and consoles and we'll get stuff slower? I want to know what all you guys think about each and every one of these things and more down in the comment section below. So let's get talking, and I look forward to speaking with you all. But other than that, thank you all very, very much for watching this video. It means the world that you are still supporting me on Payday 2 stuff. Other than that, thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe, as I've already said. And guys, I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy.